Okay, so before I get into the review of this chapter of Taizai, or more along the lines of the side story of Diane, I want to let you know if you hear any thunder, rain, lightning, anything like that, it's because a bad storm is going on right now, so pardon that if you hear that in the background. Nothing I can do about that, but I do want to talk about this chapter, so yeah. Anyways, this chapter of Taizai, a little bit late today. Usually Taizai is out around the same time Fairy Tail comes out early on in the morning, and I've been waiting all day for this chapter. Like, I was like, shit, where's this chapter? Like, I got up early, up around like 7 this morning, 7 or 8. The chapter wasn't still out, and I'm like, oh god, because, you know, I thought I missed the chapter, because usually the chapter comes out early, and it wasn't out still. I'm like, oh god, okay, yeah, thank god, it's just a little bit late. Come to find out, like, I forgot that this was going to be Diane's side story this week, so hear me out. So I was like, wait, why is the chapter so late? And then around, like, 12 o'clock, then I realized, wait, oh, yeah, okay, the Diane side story is supposed to come out this week, so most likely there's going to be a lot more pages, and it takes a lot more time to translate. Come to find out, it was that. So, yeah, I mean, 38 pages, that's a lot of content for a weekly chapter series, because next week we're going to be getting another part to Diane's side story. Overall, though, when it came to this chapter, or this side story, it kind of shed some light on more of Diane's characterization, how she is as a person, and Matrona. Now, Matrona is the biggest shocking factor about this side story I did not expect at all, because ever since we heard Matrona a long time ago when Diane first mentioned it, you know, a long time ago in that tournament when they were having that, you know, that arena battle, I cannot believe Matrona was so gun-ho and so, how can I say this, like, she's not a person that you would think would be like that from what we heard from Diane. Like, the way she acts, especially in this chapter, I don't know if I should look at it as if this is her real personality, or maybe there's circumstances that are making her act this way. One of those two are probably going on in this chapter, but right now, Matrona, first impressions of her, to be honest, she's kind of a bitch, the way she was acting in this chapter. Now, I'm not saying she's a bad character. I do like Matrona. I understand her point. She is set in her old ways when it comes to the Giant Clan, which, understandable. I mean, each clan has their own tradition. Each clans and different things like that have their own traditions and things they want to do. And so the Giant Clan, we kind of get some light on that. The Giant Clan is a warrior race, kind of like Saiyans, you know, not, you know, from other planets. So they're a warrior race that loves battle, fighting, and they believe that if you go into a battle, you fight, kill things, and if you die, you should have an honorable death. Like, you know, if you die in battle. And that's what they believe. They don't believe in fleeing either, like, you know, running away, being coward, and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, we kind of get some light into how the Giant Clan is, because if we think about this, the only giant we've actually seen throughout the entirety of Taizai is Diane. She is the only giant we have seen through the story of Taizai thus far from the series. And so we've always looked at Diane as the main concept, or the main way a giant should act. Come to find out, the giants are way different from Diane. Like, Diane's like the black sheep among the flock. That's pretty much what Diane is. Because she believes in fighting. She's fine with fighting. But she believes in actually protecting someone instead of just going to fight and then die in battle. She doesn't give a shit about that. She cares about the only reason why she would fight is by protecting someone precious to her. And it goes along with Diane's character from what we have seen through the story of Taizai. But it's so weird because, I mean, when you look at this chapter, you come to find out that Diane is such an oddball compared to everyone else. And Matrona, my god, man, like, the way she was treating Dolores, I think that was that girl's name, that little other giant girl in this chapter that kind of got a little bit of characterization. I'm going to be honest here, I don't think she's dead. I do not think Dolores is dead. I'm just going to call her that, because I can't remember the exact full name. I think it's Dolores, but I highly doubt that girl is dead. Because, let's face it, okay? We did not see the body. We did not see the body of Dolores. We did not. And then let's look at, you know, previous things of Taizai, okay? The dead can slightly come back in some forms or fashion. Hellbrum, for instance. So, there is a possibility that Dolores is eventually going to come back in some way. Maybe not as the same person, maybe someone similar to Matrona. And I was actually wondering something real quick about this chapter. I don't know if I am correct or not, I don't know, but I'm going to place a theory, and I don't know if it's been mentioned once before, so if it has, fucking forgive me, but my mind's kind of, but if I'm correct, I was getting those vibes in this chapter that Dolores and Matrona were sisters. I was getting that vibe. I was getting that vibe because in the color page of this week's chapter, you see Matrona have blonde hair. She's very tall, masculine, and stuff like that. And if you look at Dolores that was near Diane in the color page, she also has blonde hair. And I was like, that looks a lot like Matrona. I mean, it's different and younger. So if that is true, that would mean that Matrona sent her own sister out to die. It's fucked up, if I'm correct. It's fucked up. So, Matrona, though, we come to find out that Matrona is being hard on Diane because she has a lot of potential. And this is one of the main things of the chapter I noticed on my second read-through. Like, I didn't really notice it when I was first reading the chapter. I read it a second time and I caught on to this. I'm like, oh shit, like, oh my god. I don't know how many of you Cheebits actually caught on to something I'm about to say, but I'm going to mention it regardless, because, like I said, it took me my second read to actually realize what was going on in a certain panel in this chapter. I think it was around page 18 maybe, or 20-something, it was in there. It's the part where Diane and Dolores are training with Matrona, and they're getting the shit knocked out of them and stuff like that. Well, right before Diane uses the heavy metal hardening thing, or hockeying up, you see how they're making, you know, the rock pillars. Like, they're concentrating and making these giant-ass rock pillars. And in the panel, you see Diane's giant-ass rock pillar. It's freaking huge. It's freaking huge compared to a giant. You look at, you know, Dolores's, little rock thing, and it's fucking tiny. Like, it's not even Diane's size. And you see the comparisons between their strength, but it comes down to concentration also. And in that panel, you see how Dolores, she was struggling. She was struggling to make this little ass boulder that was almost the size of Diane, and then she eventually lost concentration and it collapsed over. And in the act of that, you had to where Matrona punched Dolores, and you had to where Diane rushed after her to protect her. But here's where the point I noticed when it came to the chapter. In that moment, you see to where Diane rushes over to Dolores and tries to help her out. And then you see Matrona look at the boulder that Diane made, and the boulder is stiff. And because you see how when Matrona puts her hand on it, you see this pushing thing. Like, she's trying to push it, but it doesn't fall over. So, what that means, personally, what I think it means, is that Diane was able to withstand and hold the boulder up while caring for another individual, if you get what I'm saying. Like, she was able to continue to have oh god, I'm having a fucking brain fart. Continue to have concentration. There's the word. Oh my god, dude. I need some fucking coffee. Damn. Anyways, she was able to hold her concentration up while helping out Dolores, and the boulder was still staying up, and you saw Matrona trying to push it. And then, if you could continue on pages after that, the boulder's not shown again. So what that makes me assume is that that was a moment to show us that Diane is incredible when it comes to her skills as a giant. And this is also confirmed point blank to us as the reader, because Matrona confirms this. Because when Diane used the heavy metal and Matrona's beating the shit out of her, her fist is fucked up. And she's like, she has a lot of power inside when you see her fist is all messed up. And so it shows you Diane has a lot of potential to be very strong. And so that goes along with the correlation of the boulder. So yeah, I figured that out in my second read through. Hopefully I'm not the only one to see that. I really hope. And just like, yeah. So, overall though, when it came to the chapter of Taizai, solid. I mean, Dolores is dead, supposedly. No body. I don't believe the shit. And next week we got more of the side story. So, it's not over yet. We don't have the conclusion. So, we still need to find out why Diane is the serpent envy. Well, we still need to find out why she's envy of the 7 deadly sins. That's something we really do. We can assume she's envious because she wants to be human and have, like, human relationships, but we still don't know the full grasp of how she got that. Because usually when it comes to these side stories, we come to find out how they got their, like, title. You know, like Bond to, you know, Well, we haven't got Meliodas as much, besides, you know, him destroying the fucking hole in Danafor, but I mean, we still didn't get the full official backstory on that. So, I mean, there's a couple sins that we still need to know more about. The point is still standing, though, that we're probably going to find out finally why Diane has the Envy title to her in next week's chapter. So that's it. So tell me your thoughts. How do you feel about this week's chapter, Taizai? Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.